Here we go. Hello again, everybody. Welcome to Michael's Record Collection, where we talk about great music with the people who make it and the people who love it. I am very excited to be joined by guitarist Ian Crichton, who you know from Saga. We're here to talk about 6 by 6, about to put out their sophomore album. Ian, thanks for your time.
Yeah, nice meeting you, Michael.
Nice to meet you. I want to start out by asking you what I ask all my guests, which is, Ian, what was your first favorite record?
She Loves You by the Beatles. I was 6 years old, I think.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of people on here have cited the Beatles, which is understandable. Now I know obviously you and your brother are musicians. Do you come from a musical family? Were your parents, your grandparents, was there music always around, or did you guys sort of pioneer the musicianship in the family?
Yeah, there's no musicians in the family. My dad was a writer. He's from Ireland. My mom's from Scotland. She taught Scottish country dancing. That's about it, right? No, I mean basically, Jim and myself started. Jim's like 3 years older. So when you're 12, that's a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
you know, that's kind of where it started.
Okay. And did you just want to emulate Big Brother, or did you have a similar musical interest? Did he kind of play records for you? How did that sort of relationship develop?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're talking very young, right? So, no, I mean, yeah, I used to hear a lot of music from his bedroom, when, and yeah, it just got into that. I mean, I just loved it. All these old albums, King Crimson, and all that stuff. I mean, it started with Eric Clapton, Jeff Beck, Jimi Hendrix.
All right. When I talked to Robert Berry, he told me that when you guys started to talk about this 6 by 6 band, he kind of envisioned it slightly different from you. He said that you were kind of more wanting a power trio like Cream. He was thinking more something a little bit more musical like Rush, but you guys kind of split the difference to some extent on that.
Well, actually, when I first met them, I was contacted in 2020 during the first year of COVID, and nobody was doing anything. It was perfect timing for me. So I had all the time in the world to be writing with Robert and do that first record. The idea that the management and it was pushing forward for a couple months was they kept using the word Asia, and I wasn't into that.
Mm-hmm.
It's yeah, even though I did a Asia album once, but I was into something more happening, like I kept telling him we got to make our own sandwiches, and just make your own band, like don't really follow anyone.
Right. Understood. Uh, I guess kind of jumping around a little bit, but let's go back to you guys being a little younger. When you guys started Saga, this came out of sort of Jim and Steve Negus's band Flood. Is that kind of how it like evolved into Pockets and eventually what we came to know as Saga?
Wow, you know your stuff. That's true. Yeah, I wasn't. I was like 16. I could play very well, and I'm in the Toronto newspaper looking for a gig, try to get some experience, some funny auditions, and finally got into a band called Kickback. That was my first band, and we played all over Ontario and Quebec. Now in the 70s, you could play from Monday to Saturday every single night, and the place was packed because that generation went out to the bars to see music and meet girls or whatever. I mean, that was the thing of the 70s, which really went away in the 80s. And so that was so healthy for a band with no money, right? And it was just perfect. I mean, we played every single week for like 3 years, all over Ontario and Quebec. Yes, it did. I mean, basically, Flood was a recording act. It was my brother Jim's first recording act, and the Pilling brothers ran that. Ed Pilling and Brian Pilling. And what happened was when I was about 19 years old and I was in this band Kickback, the main writer, Brian Pilling, acquired leukemia, and he passed away at 26 years old. And that ended Flood. So then Jim took the bull by the horns and wanted to start this thing, and contacted Mike, who Sadler, who he was in a band with before called Truck. They were doing progressive stuff around the bars, and Steve Negus was involved in Flood. Steve Negus was actually playing in Kickback after Flood for a minute. He played in that band with me for a few months before it ended, because we were starting Saga. That's how Saga started.
Wow, and of course, you guys have gone on to great acclaim in Saga, and I see your gold record there on the wall back there for Worlds Apart, which is cool. I actually have.
Yeah, that's my American one.
Yeah. Now, if you look at the
America.
bottom thing back here, that's my signed copy of Worlds Apart that Michael was kind enough to sign for me.
Cool.
But obviously, you guys took off in the '80s, especially with with On the Loose and Wind 'Em Up with MTV. It had to be a crazy time for you guys. You guys had already been a band for a while, had some success, and now you're being filmed. You're having to be pop stars and make videos. What was the MTV era like for Saga?
It's crazy. It was really crazy. I mean, it really made Saga, you know. We got signed to CBS New York, great record deal, and off we went. We played around America for about 6-7 years, opening up for all the big bands, all the big venues. It was wonderful. It's hard to remember all this stuff now, but it was quite, I used to call it being thrown to the wolves, because there were big auditoriums and 10,000 people and all that sort of thing. And depending where you were in America, if they knew you, they'd go crazy for you, and then other ones would be, so you had to go out there and prove yourself and give it your best, and it was great.
You guys were adopted very early on by the people of Germany. What was it about Saga that resonated so strongly in places like Germany and a few other places? You guys have always had a great following there. Is it just that because progressive rock is so beloved there, or do you think there's more to it than that? Because you guys aren't like you were never just an out and out prog band. You had pop sensibilities. You were a rock band that had a little bit more complicated rhythmic stuff going on than most pop and rock bands.
Yeah, we're the Saga is in both worlds. It's got prog, it's got rock. What happened was, I think was our first record. It was our first record. That's right. And they had this probably the same in America, where these stores where they do export import. So they export American bands or up here Canadian bands, and then get European bands in, and they're all on import, and they cost more money and all that. That album took off around the Munich area on import. We sold 50,000 records, and that perked up the record company's ears, which started the whole thing.
Yeah,
went over there in 1979 and did a TV show with the Police. Were on that show, and they were doing their first song, Roxanne, right? Yeah, we're no spring chickens.
you guys were just along for the ride there too. So now and I don't want to belabor the Saga thing, but obviously you have a long history with that band. So I'm gonna just ask one more question. I know you guys have been doing some live gigs, but what is the current status of the band? You guys last had a record out in 2021 with Symmetry. What is the current status of Saga? Is there going to be another album at some point?
It's not on the table right now, but I won't say no. I imagine at some point there will be. But right now I'm in 6x6.
Mhm.
Saga's touring. I'm off on Monday to Panama. Saga's playing down there, and then back to Europe next month for 5 shows.
Yeah.
So
Have you guys ever done Panama before?
yes,
Yeah. Okay. You guys are big in some places like Central America and I believe the island countries are very fond of Saga as well.
yeah, Puerto Rico,
Yeah.
yeah, Venezuela, kind of crazy place, but
Yeah. Good enough. All right, let's turn our attention to 6x6 because this I Robert made a point saying this is not a project, it's not a super group temporary thing. He wants this to be a band, and I assume that you and Nigel Glockler, the drummer, are also on board with that. This is a band and a growing, ongoing concern that you guys would like to see be successful.
you are correct, Michael. Yeah, I would right from the beginning. I didn't want this to be a record band, and there's a lot of reasons for that. I mean, one, it has a lifespan of whatever. Two, CD sales are questionable, as we all know, of these years. So, it's really all in the playing. And I love to play live. I just love to get out there and improvise. You can change things every night, and you get to fulfill myself doing that. And also, it's just a great way to be successful. And as I was told yesterday, we have September and October open because Nigel's on tour with Judas Priest right now. All over Europe, big venues. He's always busy, so we've got September, October, and I've nailed down about 5 shows in Europe in September, and also we're looking at playing that Prague stock outside of New York City.
Okay.
Um, in October, and San Juan, Puerto Rico. So, it's a start.
Yeah.
And San Juan, Puerto Rico with 6x6 would be fantastic because when I was very young and Saga just started, we were playing small halls and getting success and all like that. And all of a sudden we got a call from promoter down there saying, we were really well known, would come down and do a show. So yes, we went down and did a show. 8,000 people. I mean, I was not yet, 800 people was the most I played to, and I was blown away. So that was kind of my first real concert, and it really sinks into me. So to have 6x6 go down there and do that, it's a good omen for me. That was a hard thing back then. So, we played San Juan back in 1980 or something, and then we had to fly the next day to Edmonton, Alberta to start a Rush tour.
That's a little bit of a jaunt.
5 plane rides. We got there 20 minutes before the show.
That's that fun Spinal Tap type stuff that people don't really realize that you guys go through, especially in the early days.
At least we could find the stage this time. Yeah.
Yeah. So 6x6, the new album's called Beyond Shadowland, and it comes out April 26th on Inside Out Music. I'm a very big fan of that label. I think that they have a great understanding of the artists that are on their in their stable and how to market to progressive and metal crowds. So I like Inside Out quite a bit. I'm assuming they've been really good to you guys.
Yeah, they have. Yeah, really good label. Yeah.
So you on guitar, Nigel Glockler, we talked about from Saxon. People will know him from Saxon on drums. Robert Berry, who's been on the show a couple of times on bass, keyboards, and vocals. And this is the band sophomore release. Your first one, the self-titled, came out in August of 22, I believe, if memory serves. And Robert told me that 6x6 is a band. He definitely wanted to do live dates. He definitely wanted to. He wasn't sure how sales were going to go, if you guys were going to be able to do live dates, but it sounds like you guys are on track to do that, which is excellent. In fact, I've never been to Prague Stock, but now you've given me an excuse to go up there for that. So I would like to see you guys up there. And he told me the story that when he was trying to find his next thing after doing the third 3 album, that he was looking for someone who could, in his words, write unique parts, in his words, like Keith Emerson did. And his manager, Nick Shelton in England, suggested you guys talked and got together and met and discussed things. But yeah, it must feel pretty good to be kind of compared to somebody like Keith Emerson, somebody who's really good at writing unique, intricate parts that are uniquely you.
I mean, it's an honor. I mean, Keith is not a guitar player, but I've been a fan of him since the Nice, like before Emerson, like a bomber.
So you guys, I'm assuming that you're writing a lot like they did in those days. You're sending parts to Robert, and Robert, what he's so good at is taking pieces and turning pieces into songs and stitching parts together so that they make songs, and then finding something cohesive about them, and then bringing them back to the group, and then you guys can sort of smooth out the rough edges. Is that still the way you guys are kind of putting these records together, these songs together?
Pretty much. I mean, Robert and I basically write everything. I send him all kinds of sections and parts and verses and licks and intros and all this stuff. And Robert is a brilliant arranger. So he gets his hands on these parts. He puts in a few of his own parts, verses, things like this, does a full lyric and sends it back to me, blows me away. I mean, he's very creative, Robert.
Mhm.
And when we first met and he did that on the first song on the first record, I was sold. I thought, wow, this is a great guy to be working with. So, I'm very happy, with this.
And that's good because one of the things that a band has to do is get along well together too. So
Oh yeah.
I assume the personality wise, you guys are clicking too.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So 6x6, the self-titled album, you guys put out very unique. You guys put out a graphic novel with that, and I'm assuming one that there's no graphic novel with the new album, and but I am curious as to know how that did for you because it was a tremendous piece of art. Like just looking at the pictures and everything was just really well done. Do you think that helped? Do you think that it kind of helped spread the word on 6x6?
Well, I think so. I mean, that was a brainstorm of Robert too. He arranged all of that with an illustrative person and all that, and it was his idea too.
Okay.
So
Uh,
yeah, I mean, I don't know how much help it did for us, but it could do only but help.
yeah. Um, I'm wondering if you do you think looking back, I know you guys kind of started working together and you kept the band on the down low. You didn't really come out and have this big announcement. Hey, we're a band now. We're gonna work on an album. You kind of left it until the work was pretty much done on the first album to come out to the world as a band. Looking back on that decision, do you think that helped you? Do you think it may have held you back a little bit? Do you have an opinion on it?
Well, I've never been asked that question. I think, yeah, I'm not a great person myself for going, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, in 9, 10 months.
Yeah.
Um, I think, you tell them once and people go on with their lives. I mean, so I think it's better to have it pretty much finished, do the announcement, and you're not too much a long wait for it to come out.
Makes sense. Now, when you guys were getting together and discussing what kind of music you would put together, or maybe you didn't even have that. Maybe it just came out of what you guys were writing. Were you making a conscious effort to not sound or play like you did with Saga?
Well, I mean, for years in the back of my head, I've always kind of dreamed as a three-piece. And playing with Saga has been great. But to be guitar, bass, and drums was like, wow, to play big shows like that, it's kind of a dream, really nice. I wanted that. When this has been presented to me, I jumped at it. And the music, I am playing heavier. Yeah, it's it's a different planet, but that's what the music called for. The way we were writing and all that. It really called for me to play the way I did.
Okay. And Nigel's a heavier touch guy, and Robert's a rock guy. So that kind of
Well,
seems like
actually,
it
like
would.
Robert's Mr. Progressive. I'm
He
kind of
definitely
both
is.
worlds. I'm
Yeah,
both worlds.
yeah,
And Nigel's heavy metal.
yeah. Exactly. But
It's made this, a cool trio,
yeah, there's a side to Robert that's a little bit more rock though, too. That from his solo albums. But so I think that it really kind of seems natural. The three of you, you put you in a blender, and it's kind of seems like that's what would come out. Tell me a little bit about the start of Beyond Shadowland. When was the first sort of writing for this album? When did that take place?
Um, started last year. Um, I was really busy last year with Saga. We toured a lot, but I was coming back, and I'd come back and a couple of days rest, turn on the studio, get back into writing. So that's why this record is coming out so soon, because I like to be busy, and it has just been an ongoing writing for up until we finished the whole record last November.
Okay. What was the first thing you wrote for this? Like the first piece of
Ren.
Ren. Okay. So, this is an album. Did you guys, when you started to think about album two, did you have discussions on what you wanted to do the same, what you wanted to do differently, or did you just go off and write and that's what came out?
It's went over right. Robert starts calling me and going, "Come on, Crichton, send me some parts here. Let's get going."
Does he kind of keep everything on track?
Uh, yeah, yeah. Robert is, he's really on top of the game.
Tell me a little bit about the bonus orchestral medley. There's an orchestra medley. This orchestra from Budapest, Hungary, is on a
Bulgaria.
bonus track. Yeah, Bulgaria. Okay, so they're on the as a bonus track on the vinyl version of this. How did that happen?
Once again, that was Robert's brainstorm, and he worked for a couple of weeks with them on a laptop from California to Bulgaria. And I think they did a fabulous job. It's the piece that they wrote is kind of a mix between. They took my song "One Step," which is a 8-minute song, and also the song "Titan," and they kind of mix that up. But you'd have to hear it.
Well, I'm looking forward to the vinyl version of that, and this will be out on vinyl, CD, and digital. And you can stay tuned to 6x6band.com to find out all the details and where to order it and everything. Just can you tell me which of the songs sort of kind of really resonate with you, like once they were finished and you got the finished products and you're listening to these tracks back, which songs really spoke to you out of the ones that you put together for this second album?
I'm a big fan of Ren. I like Arms of a Word, Spectre. Well, there's stuff on all of them, really. You know, uh, The Mission, One Step, Obliex, and nobody can pronounce that.
Yeah.
Every interview I do with, how do you say that word? Well, I made it up. That was a working title that we kept.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So
I
it's really
hadn't
about
even.
it's really about leaving planet Earth and finding a more calm place. You know. So I think Obliex is that planet.
Okay. That's interesting. I hadn't even gotten a chance to get around to looking that up, but that makes sense. What I'm enjoying about this second album is that these songs, it sounds like you've settled in a little bit more, are more comfortable together. They sound a little more cohesive, a little more melodic in times, but you still got some crunch there. You still got some rock, and I definitely wouldn't compare it to Asia, but I think there is some DNA with, I mean, even bands like Saga and Asia and GTR, where there's some progressive and interesting things going on under the surface, but it is, it is melodic and it's catchy.
Yeah. Well, I'm really into melody. I mean, rather than just whining out and, you know, a whole pile of notes and impressing people that way, I like to play something that, you know, makes you feel something, you know, kind of try to touch you, you know.
Absolutely. So when someone comes home and puts this album on and they listen to it start to finish, what do you want them to take away from that listening experience?
I want them to take away the album they just bought. No, I just, um, well, I'd like them to, you know, my wish is everyone's wish, you know. I mean, that they really dig the record and the band and the feeling and all of that, you know.
Would you say did Robert write all the lyrics? Did you and
Yeah,
Nigel can help with that?
no, no. Robert wrote the lyrics.
Yeah. And are there discussions beforehand on what the themes will be, or do you just leave it to him, his devices?
I leave it to his device. I do add some input at little spots. We change a few things and stuff like that, but it comes from Robert.
Well, you guys got to be pretty excited to get this thing out there. Is this the? You mentioned finishing up in November, so you're kind of trying to, when you're thinking back to different songs for this, it's history, and you've probably moved on to writing new songs and things like that at this
Well, it's
nature.
a 3 album deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, there's new
So
stuff already going. You know.
so you're putting new stuff together. You're thinking about this. Is this the nerve-wracking time when you're waiting to see how it's going to be received once you release it?
Well, you know, it's not so nerve wracking these days. You know, you wait and see. You know, I mean, getting out there playing is going to make a difference. It really is. When you're a record band in this time and age, and it's just on the internet and all that, that's one thing. But if you get out there, start playing and building up an audience, that'll make the difference, I believe.
All right. Ian Crichton from 6x6 and Saga. Thank you so much for telling me a little bit about the making of this record. I know you got to go, but I appreciate your time. This has been fantastic for me, and I hope this album does really well for you guys.
Thanks a lot, Michael. It's been a pleasure.